Good evening, good evening, everybody. It is Thursday. We are excited to be here. We are going to have a great conversation today. Career conversations is the topic, and this is something that we are proud to do and excited to do on behalf of Augusta Technical College. Miss Benita Jenkins is joining us live, and she is the Special Populations Coordinator. So, welcome, Miss Benita. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And we also have two very special guests, which will be joining us and lending their voices to the conversation as it relates to non traditional careers. And that is Miss Christina Wade, and we have Jabal Moss. So, welcome, Christina and Jabal.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And for those of you that may not know me, my name is Tonia Gibbons, and I am the creator and host of a podcast called Tuesday Talks with Tonia. And I am partnering with Benita in order to bring this to life, this career conversations to life, so that we have an understanding of what traditional careers look like, but non-traditional careers. And so that's what this conversation is going to be about. So I want to give an opportunity to our guests to share a little bit about themselves, share a little bit of their bio. I do have their bios, but I always like to hear from them personally. So Miss Christina, if you would like to go first and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll go on over to Mr. Jabal.
Alrighty. I've grown up in the CSRA, graduated from Burke County High School in 2002, and I eventually made my way to Augusta Tech, and I actually have two associates from there, one in accounting and then for the electrical program. And out of tech school for the electrical program, I made it to Michelin, and I worked there for a couple of years as a electrical reliability technician. I think is the technical term. We troubleshot machines and repaired them. And then eventually I went to Bridgestone, but ultimately I've made my way out to Savannah River site as E&I, troubleshooting and working on equipment. And then now I'm a planner, and I've been that for 6 years now.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Christina. Mr. Moss, you're up next.
I'm also a native of Augusta, Georgia. I graduated from Cross Creek High School in 2009. After graduating from Cross Creek, I went on to attend Augusta's HBCU, Payne College. Graduated from Payne College in 2013. Went on to graduate from Georgia Southern University with my first master's in education with a focus on higher education and student affairs. And then I went to Webster University and earned my second master's in business administration with a concentration in human resources. I worked in higher education as a student success coach, transitional program coordinator. Eventually went to Ohio, where I worked at Wittenberg University, where I was the associate director of student success and retention services. And then COVID hit, and my mom was like, "You're too far away from home. You're too far away from home by yourself. Think about moving to Augusta, coming back home." And that was in 2020. And I said, "Mom, I'm not moving back to Augusta without a job in my field." And so it was just like the heavens must have been talking, because my high school teacher, Ms. Takiwi Milton, was serving as the coordinator for mathematics for Richmond County School System. And she had reached out to me maybe a day after the conversation with my mom. And she said, "Hey, have you thought about teaching, becoming a teacher in K-12? And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, have you thought about moving back home to Augusta?" I said, "Well, my mom just asked me that yesterday."
Wow.
She says, "Well, I think I got somebody that I want you to go work for. I want you to interview with him." And his name was Dr. Middleton. He's now the principal at Laney High School. And she said, "I'm going to send him your information, and I want you to, talk with him." And so we talked, and then I moved back to Augusta in July of 2020 and started teaching in Richmond County August 2020.
Wow. So that journey, it seems like it was meant to be.
Yes.
Seems like it was meant to be. That's awesome. And so this conversation is centered around non-traditional careers, because a lot of times people go into jobs, a lot of times it's about the money. very rarely do you see people initially starting in something that they really have a passion for, because what I've seen is people want to chase the dollar, like who's paying the most money, that's what I'm going to do. Even if they go to school and get a degree like you, Christina, and you have 2 degrees. Like I have a sister who has a degree in psychology and a degree in journalism and has not used either of them.
Oh, wow.
And has been out of college for over 20 years. And so to me, when I hear non-traditional careers, for Christina, for example, you with electrical maintenance and that type of work, you rarely see women in those types of roles. Share a little bit about your experience and what made you want to do electrical. Like, what was it in you that says, hey, I'm gonna try electrical out? I want to know what that's about.
Well, growing up, my grandfather kind of took me in as, I don't know, like the grandson, but he had grandsons. But anyway, he used to, like when I was 14, he had me under his van changing shocks on the van, and he would have me with him in his shops working on wood, cutting stuff up. And he used to be electrical with the union, with the IBEW,
Okay.
up in New Jersey, working for the railroad. So I had that from him, and but I always liked, like I would take things apart and try to put them back together, right, make sure they work. And when you take something apart and put it back together or fix something, to me it makes me feel good. It's like, yeah, I did that, It just I don't know, it just feels good. So I didn't really know when I picked electrical. All I really knew was the residential side. I didn't know that there was a whole nother industrial route and commercial routes and all those. And so I was in school and we were learning PLCs and stuff. And my teacher's like, I just had a student start at such and such place making $20-something an hour. And at this time, I was a single mom with 2 young kids, and I had quit my job at Augusta Tech on a chance and went back to school, living off of like $800 a month.
Wow.
And just doing what I had to do, because I knew that if I could just get through it,
yeah,
I would do so much better. And it has paid off tenfold.
Wow.
But
Amazing.
but I went to school there, and I was like one of the top in the class. Mr. Smith bragged about me all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah. But I enjoy working with tools and putting stuff together and trying to build things, and it's just.
So it sounds like exposure, because your grandfather exposed you to that.
Yes.
Typically, men will not bring their daughters into the yard to work on a car. That's not typical. Right. They want to protect the daughters. They want the daughters to be in the house watching the mom cook, clean, and domestic type stuff. So typically, you don't see that.
Right. When we would have our family gatherings and all the women would be in the kitchen, I was outside with the guys shooting guns and working on the cars and all that kind of stuff. I was like, that stuff is boring. I don't want to do that.
Right.
You're like, yeah, I want to go where the excitement is.
Yeah.
Different.
He taught me how to, change my tire. He made me self-sufficient, because I learned how to change my own tires. He taught me how to change my own oil, and a lot of females don't know how to do that stuff.
I don't know how.
You know what, Tonia, we see that a lot. I had a friend who sent her student over to go. She wanted her daughter to be in healthcare. The same with me when I went to school. And she was over in healthcare at Augusta Tech, and she was struggling. And her mom called me and said, "Can you just talk to that child?" But I talked to her. Her father was a mechanic. And so I was like, she doesn't even want to do that. Wow. And so we put her in automotive. Oh my gosh, she just blossomed. And then the next thing I know, I went to drop my car off, and I had a Toyota at that time, and she was working at Milton Rubin, and she said, "Miss Jenkins." Wow. And so I said, "Mom, you were trying to make her live your thoughts."
Yeah, right.
The kids wanted to. And so, yes, that's kind of, I hear that story a lot, Christine.
Yeah. And that's a powerful story, because again, we push our children in the direction we think they should go, and we're stuck in tradition. And tradition doesn't work for this generation anymore. They're like, I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do, which is good. But we, as parents, as grandparents, as whoever, caregivers, we need to listen and let them go forward in the way that they want to go, and not necessarily, push our objective and everything on them. And so that story of her mom saying, "You go into nursing because that's what women do," and she's like, "I don't want to do that." Like this, that's so. Christina, one of the things so I'm a researcher, and I like when I'm having conversations, I like to kind of know some stats. One of the stats I pulled from an electrical maintenance perspective for women, that it's only 2.33% of women in the United States that do that work
Wow,
out of over 800,000 people that do that work.
that's crazy. I didn't know
It is
that.
crazy. It is, but it just goes to show you if we expose more young girls to this, because at the end of the day, I tell people all the time, some students are not necessarily your 4-year college material.
Right.
Once they get through high school, they're like done.
That was
But
me.
if you expose them, you said that was me.
Yeah. I was like, I do not want to go to college.
Like, I am done. Leave me alone. And so, but give them other options. I'm from up north, and in high school, we had the technical schools with our regular public schools. And so we always had students that were going on the technical track versus the traditional educational track. And so, Jabal, I'm going to switch over to you because your education and the stats for you. I looked up what the stats are for a teacher. So, in the United States, 77% of our public school teachers are female. And according to the National Center for Education, 10.1% are African American and only 1.3% are African American men. So share with me kind of your journey and what you experienced as a male teacher, because even back in the day when you saw teachers, it was always women. Like I remember one male teacher that I had, and he was my 5th grade teacher in Lawton, Oklahoma, and his name was Mr. Golden. And I remember him to this day because he was the only male teacher I had. And, up until even when I went to high school, I think I had maybe one male teacher. So you guys are like unicorns. And if you're a Black male, you're even more of an anomaly. So share some of your experience and your trajectory as it relates to the teacher in the school system.
So I'll have a similar story to Christina. As I was growing up, I come from a pretty large family. I'm the 9th of 10 children.
Wow.
And my mom really pushed sports a lot on my brothers and I. But she realized early on that he ain't gonna play no sports. He gonna go read a book, right? Because that's what I was gonna do. I used to tell her all the time. I said, if I get hit, I'm gonna want to fight. So let's not do that, right? So she was like, well, you just go do something else. So she did push me into academics. All throughout middle and high school, she would always say, that's my academic, that's my genius child. So when I got to college, she wanted me to become a doctor. She was pushing me towards biology. And I ain't never liked science anyway. So I went in with the mind, I'm gonna make my mama happy. We're gonna have to figure this out. But after 3 weeks, and I'll never forget, Professor Jinky, my first biology class, was like, our biology majors don't have a life. I said, I gotta be here 4 years and I ain't got no life. Now let's find something to do. Right. So I ended up going to majoring in history. And I had a degree, I was majoring in history and a minor in religion because, I was young and thought that I was going to preach, but, some people are called and others are called up. And so I said, let me just find something so I can get out of school. But I became very involved at Payne. I became SGA president and was a resident assistant and was doing things on campus, sitting in board meetings. And so the president at the time, Dr. Bradley, and some of the other senior level staff members said, well, we think you may have a great career in higher education, specifically working with students and student affairs. And so they had started to, mentor me in that direction. I didn't know what higher education was. I just knew I was in college, right?
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to graduate school for higher education. But now that, I'm in K-12, I see it totally different, specifically being back in the community at which I grew up in and which has poured into me and given me so much. Our students in this community lack, I'm not going to say lack, but there is a show, at least in my school, where there aren't many father figures. When we call, it's always mom, the emergency contact, or mom is the person that you call. And so as a male in this district, I see it two ways. One, I see it as what can I do to give these students the ability to know that there's a champion in the building for them that's going to fight for them, give them the tools necessary to be successful, and know that that we're connected and that the connection is going to bring us to getting you to optimal success. So that's number one. And then number two, as I look at it, I you know, as I'm in this building, how do I know my place? Because it's very easy to offend, you know, my colleagues. And, you know, I said this earlier today, specifically my women colleagues in the building who have been doing this for a while, because, you know, I may say something. Here's my light. I may say something. And, you know, to me, because I come from a different industry where, you know, we had conversations and communication, I may say something and I'm just like, this is just what I'm saying. And some of my colleagues, specifically my women colleagues, would be like, you know, that was kind of offensive. You know, you didn't have to say it that way. So, or, you know, sometimes I have to be very closed off to make sure that I don't offend, or that my passion isn't taken as anger, because I'm so passionate about making sure we're right for the children. And so I always try to find myself most days trying to figure out, how do I not offend but still be authentic in the same time, and that we're here for the children.
And so with that, do you think if it was a woman saying the same thing that you're saying, that it would be taken as offensive?
I think in some ways, no, because, you know, I think with women being the leaders in this career, you know, their word is taken more so as goals, specifically when it comes to instruction. Because if you notice in education, most men, we have to do discipline. It's very seldom that we have the opportunity to do instruction, or be thought leaders about instruction and academics. We are normally looked at as the disciplinarian.
Right.
Even in my building right now, my hallway is 7th and 8th grade together. I mostly get sent students because of behavior issues. Let me give you a pass to go sit in Mr. Moss' class so he can talk to you about how you're acting out. It's rare that I'm having conversations with my colleagues about, what instructional strategies are you using to ensure that your students are grasping the content? You know, or what interventions are you putting in place to make sure that we're dealing with the behavior to address the deficits in academics? You know, and so as a male, I want us to have a better perspective on Black men can be educators in K-12 and talk about academics. We just have to be disciplinarian and father figures and mentors all the time.
But to that point, when you think about home structure, if there's a 2-parent home structure, that's the same structure in the home. Typically, the mother is the nurturer, she's the educator, she's the friend, and then dad is the disciplinarian. So, you know, I always remember watching certain shows. Wait till your father gets home, and the daddy got to deal with whatever issues. And so that has just translated into the school system setting. So if you think about it from that standpoint, from a holistic standpoint, it's just carrying over from what's in the home if there is a 2-parent household. And that is kind of, it's the tradition, but it shouldn't be the norm. The norm should be, like you just said, we're here to educate. We're here to show young boys and young girls that there can be men that can educate us as well, that can lead us, that can, you know, give us experiences. And it's not always about discipline. And so, you know, when you think of a non-traditional career, because it is such a non-traditional career, because it is mostly geared toward women, you see those kind of discrepancies in it, that yes, we have men teachers, but we're still going to treat them as, you know, they're not really supposed to be in teaching. So we're going to just push them over here and delegate them to do discipline. So, you know, that, and it doesn't fit really, especially in the days and times we're in. We need both. We need men to be disciplinarians, but also educators, because a man or woman cannot be what they cannot see. They just cannot. You can wish for a child to be something all day long, but if they never see that, if they never have an encounter with that, if they never experience that,
They don't know.
How can they become that? And so, Christine, I want to go back to you for a little bit. With your positions at Michelin and SRS, and now currently what you do, and you are really the minority, you're really, really the minority. How are you treated by your peers that are male? Like, how do they treat you? Are they supportive? Are they helpful? Or are they kind of standoffish and say, like, learn it on your own because you shouldn't be there because this is a man's job? What is the reception like?
Well, now I have a pretty mutual respect with all the men. A lot of them, there's a good handful of them, they come to me and ask me for help quite a bit. So now I have we've established a good repertoire, you know, we have mutual respect. So it's good. But when I first started, of course, there's men that don't think you should be there. You know, this is a man's world and
right.
You can't do what we do and
right.
blah, blah, blah. And, you know, there would be times where we would troubleshoot. The machine would break down and we would go out there to troubleshoot, and they don't want to listen to you. They don't want to hear anything.
Yeah.
And it's not all of them now.
Yeah.
Let me say that. It's not all of them. There's only like a couple of them typically each place I went, but they wouldn't want to listen to you, and you'd be like, well, have you checked, you know, this proc switch or something? Have you checked this? And it's like in one ear, out the other.
Yeah.
And you just kind of gotta, okay, keep troubleshooting, you know, just let them figure it out on their own. And then when you're right, you're just like, about that, you know.
I told you, but you didn't want to listen to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Let them, and then you just got to prove yourself, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to work harder to show that you can do what they do too, you know. And I've gotten to the point where, you know, now I'm being considered to be one of the next managers in my department.
Wow. It's kind of like you got to let your work speak for itself.
Yes.
Coming from, so I did 10 years in manufacturing at Procter & Gamble. Totally never saw myself working in a factory setting. But I saw the money. It was rough. I saw the money. I was working at the sheriff's office, which is another area that can be gender, you know, kind of driven. So I was working at the sheriff's office, and I was making one amount, and this was like a $5-6 increase an hour. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going over there. But what I thought was I was going to have an office job. I was going to be able, they put me in the hardest department in the whole entire plant, which was the making department, which means we actually made the laundry detergent, which means I was dealing with chemicals. I was dealing with machines. I was like, oh, this is so outside of what I know to do. And the department was 97% white male, probably 2% black male, and then 1% female. And I was one of 3 black females there. And that journey was something that it challenged me. Because you're right, the men would be like, you know, but I did have some good team members that were really interested in helping me learn the job, helping me to, you know, do what I needed to do to be able to advance, because in order to advance and pay, you had to learn certain areas of the department. And I had some men that were very helpful, but I had some men that almost were like, could sabotage me. And, you know, especially coming into a role that is something that's so outside of your norm, like pouring dye into a batch to make Tide with bleach and knowing how measurements. I'm not a math person. I'm not a science person. And I had to do all of that. I was like, oh, Lord, am I going to make it through this? But when you show yourself to be willing to learn and to grow, I think you kind of grow on people, because some of the men had to come back later and be like, you know, you really are doing a good job, or, you know, we're really glad you're a part of the department. And just me and my personality, like, that was so opposite. Even my friends and family would be like, girl, what are you doing? You wear steel-toe boots to work. And, you know, you see my hair. I like to keep my hair done. I like to dress. And I had to wear jeans and T-shirts. And
I love the jeans and T-shirts and boots.
No, I hated it. I was like, why do I have to wear this? I'm like, this is not me. I couldn't wait to get home and take that stuff off.
I'm so opposite.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm such a girly girl, and just to be dirty. I mean, I have bruises still to this day, and I've been going from Procter & Gamble for 10 years, and I still have bruises that I got when I was there. But just the environment of men who have been in these roles traditionally, some of them had been there 10 years, 20 years by the time I got there. And so it was kind of like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? This is not, why didn't you go to the packing department, or why didn't you go to this department? Because I didn't have a choice. This is where they placed me. But the lessons that I've learned, and knowing that I can do whatever it is I set my mind to, I'm not, conditioned by what society says. It's like, okay, like you said, I want to be outside fixing trucks. I don't want to be in the kitchen cooking. Like, you made a decision that I want to do something different. And that's what this whole conversation is about. A lot of times people get stuck in careers because it's what somebody else said that they should do, or what the world looks like to them. So, I guess I need to be, for women, it's either we're going to be teachers or nurses, or, something like that. Rarely ever did you see a woman wanting to go into engineering. And now we have a lot of women engineers. You hardly ever saw women welders. There are a lot of women welders at SRS.
Oh, I pushed my ex-sister-in-law. I got her to go to school at Augusta Tech for welding. And my daughter wants to go there now.
Yeah. See? So, and that's what we need to encourage people to do. Think out the box. Do something different. And those positions are very lucrative. If you're really concerned about the money, those positions are lucrative. It's just a little bit different than what people think they should be. Yeah. And as with Jabal as a teacher, and with you as an electrical maintenance person, those are roles that are typically gender specific.
Yeah.
But like Benita mentioned, the automotive, all of those things. And what do you tell your children? So Jabal, especially as a teacher, what do you share with your students? How do you get them to think about what they want to be when they grow up?
I am one of those teachers who really am believing in this movement of social and emotional support and learning. And one of the things that I always start the week out with my homeroom class, specifically, I have 28 kids in my homeroom class. On Mondays, they do a Monday check-in. And I just ask them, what are your goals for the week? What are you thinking about doing, down the line, 5 to 10 years from now? What does it look like for you? Who's your biggest, motivating factor? Who's the person that inspires you? Excuse me. And I say all of that because in the area that I teach in Richmond County, the conversations that you hear about my school community's children is that's a tough group of children to teach, right? And so my thing with them is you can be whatever you put your mind to be. Take the limits off. And I'm also a proponent, even though I have a 4-year degree, I always tell my students, college may not be for you, but don't say it's not for you right now based on right now conditions. Go and experience it. If you give it a semester, even my nieces and nephews, I say, if you give it a semester, give it a year, and you don't like it, take some time to figure out what you really want to do. What makes you happy? What would get you out of bed every day, even if you didn't have to make a living, and so that's how I am now about teaching. When my principal said my first year here, he was like, Moss, I'm gonna give you a year. If you don't like it after a year, no harm, no foul. You gave it a year. Dr. Middleton was like, I'm not gonna make you go through the certification and everything right now. I'm gonna give you this year to really figure it out. And he put me in a subject I don't like. I came here thinking I was going to teach history because my degree is in history. 2 weeks later, he was like, hey, Mr. Moss, you think about maybe teaching math? What? Teaching what? He was like, well, you got that master's in business. I think you can really do it. I was looking at him like, yeah, this is the setup, right? So, take the limits off. And I was nervous, I have to teach math. This isn't, I'm good at math. I'm great at it. I can do it. But teaching it, that's a whole nother, atmosphere. But when you get into something and you feel like, oh my God, I can do this now. That's how I teach my kids, and I inspire them every day. One of the things I tell them every day is that transformation happens in my classroom. How you came in is not how you'll leave. Your thought process would not be the same.
Mhm.
And that's what I want to instill in you as you think about where you're going to be after high school, because my goal is to get you to think not just mathematically,
Right.
but real
Right.
life. And what will your life be? And what will your life impact be to the community and the world? So don't just think about the things that people tell you to do. Find your own voice and speak your truth, even if you have to shiver telling your truth. That's one of the things I tell my kids all the time.
I like that. I like that. Even if you have to shiver telling your truth.
Yeah.
I like it.
And you know what, Tonia, that is why the Technical College System of Georgia, which encompasses 23 colleges with Augusta Tech, is why we have special populations. Because two-year college, you can get in if you like Christina said, she has 2 associates. So she did a first one and she's get something else. And so she can now either fall back on the first one and she combine it. So that's the great thing about it. And what we are doing now is we're doing dual enrollment. And used to, the dual enrolled students would only take their core. Now they can take programs. It's capped at 30 hours. So you can't get a whole degree while you're in school because you started junior, senior. But I will say it's close to possible. And so that's the good thing. They don't have to just do core and transfer it to a 4-year. They can get their 2-year and graduate. And that's one thing my son did. He graduated from A.R. Johnson in May and Augusta Tech in June.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was coming. And so we see that a lot. And then with my job as special populations coordinator, nobody knows what that means.
Right.
So you'll see on my door, my title at work is the Chief Happiness Officer. And so I'm there to make those non-traditional students, they know they can come to me. And it's something that we're going to expand because I didn't know about Christina when she was in electrical. And so we're trying to pull those in so they know that they have an outlet. And I usually do resources for those students. And so we're getting out more and more, and special populations is there to protect those students that are in non-trad and also to grow them. And Jabal, with you in accounting, that's another non-trad. Males in accounting is a non. We teach accounting. And so there's so many different careers, and whether you're in it, Augusta Tech is there to protect you and to help you succeed. And so, Christina, you're welcome to come back to another.
I'm good.
I ain't got nothing. I ain't got enough.
Yeah, you sent someone, so recruiting is always good for us too. So we appreciate you sending her to Weldon and I would tell you, Tonia, we were talking about pushing people. Jabal, my dad told me I was going to be a doctor when I was a little girl. I went to Georgia Southern in pre-med, and I would tell you just the other day, my mom had surgery. I almost fainted in the room when they took. I was like, why was I even in pre-med? But I was doing it for my father. And so I had to dig deep and decide. When I went to the counseling center, and that's where I work, as a counseling center, I had to take something, and it shows my age. What color is your parachute? Used to be the assessment they used to give us. And I took that and still failed at that. Yeah, I won't tell that story, but we do assessments for students as well in the counseling center. And so if they're kind of lost and don't know what they want to do, we do assessments. And I'll tell you, my daughter was not she's at a 4-year school, but she took classes during the summer at Augusta Tech because she didn't know what she wanted to do after COVID because she was in nursing. Of course, that kind of started making her think. She took an assessment, and that's how she found her career. One of my coworkers gave her an assessment, and she will be graduating next month with the assessed career. So you just have to, I'm proud that you give your students that outlet because the world is their oyster.
Yeah. And from an Augusta technical perspective, wrapping your arms around, those students, because it's not just students that are coming out of high school, it's adults. If I want to go back at my ripe old age of 50 plus, and I decided I want to get a degree, what are some of the opportunities that you guys have at Augusta Tech? What kind of tracks do you have? Like, I know electrical, what else do you guys have?
We have over 100 programs. Our allied health and nursing is our largest, our cash cow, because you got nursing, cardiovascular, rad tech, just a pharmacy tech. There's so many things in medical. You've got an industrial, you got cybersecurity is huge. We also have cybersecurity accounting because somebody has to run those businesses. So unfortunately, our president, Dr. Worrell, has done an excellent job in listening to the community. And I remember when a while back when there was everybody retiring from Plant Vogtle and SRS, they was like, oh, we don't have anybody who wakes up and says, I want to go into nuclear. And so we started a nuclear engineering technology degree, and we got those. And so we do that. So we listen. I will tell you, I keep getting people to ask me, y'all have a construction degree or plumbing, but with the growth that we have in the counties around us, it's all, you always need that. And so I'm sure Dr. World will look at those numbers, but that's what we do. And we answer to what the community needs. And so
and you mentioned that the HVAC and, you know, the plumbing and those jobs, and even automotive, a friend of ours, mine, they owned a paint and body shop, but they couldn't find employees.
Right.
The young people didn't want to come to work. Like, they were like, what are we going to do? Because this is and that industry is booming because there's so many accidents, cars tear up, and you have to have somebody to fix it. And so, matter of fact, my friend, she was a woman, she was leading that. And she's like, there are no women in the Southeast. She was the only one that was the owner of a paint and body shop. Wow. And she would have to go away and get classes and all of this, but there were no women that were really interested in that field. And so when you think about just everyday life and the things that we need people to come and fix our AC. We need people to fix our cars. We need people to, when we have a plumbing issue. So how do we funnel these students into those jobs? Because I think a lot of times they think, oh, that's dirty work, but they make a lot of money. They do. If you think about it, they make a lot of money. And
there are some things that we're doing. We're starting to do camps. And so when I worked at another system, a technical, we had summer camps. And at that school, there was a huge automotive camp. And those kids grew up in that camp. And so that's what we're starting to do at Augusta Tech. We've got that. We've also we have a construction program that's like an 18-week program at some point that's sponsored, and you get a job. There's a Peace Officers Training Academy that you go in. And so it's so quick that you can get a job and we place you. And so one thing that the technical college system of Georgia has all over Georgia is a guarantee. If Jabal came to the school and he graduated and we put him in a job and he was not knowing the basic things that he needed to do that he was supposed to learn, that job can call us back and we retrain him for free, because we don't want our students out there not doing what they're supposed to do. And so culinary arts is huge at the school, and that's a non-trad for females. And so we train them and we make sure that they do internships, and also companies can be on our advisory boards, and that kind of helps. So if you have a department chair in pharmacy tech who has pharmacists on her board, she can pull those students. Best believe our instructors are very good about teaching very well, but also picking the students who really want to do it. Some students are not there for the right reasons. Those instructors can tell that. And we make sure the cream of the crop, we make sure we meet them. We have a career center. My supervisor is the career director. If you get out there and you can't find a job, you can always come back to Augusta Tech. We'll do your resume, we'll practice interview you, and she also gives you job boards. So we want to make sure that our students, because our placement rate is important to us. So we support you even when you're gone.
And that's a good thing too, because a lot of times once you get that degree, and then it's like, then what? You know, even for adults going into the workforce or going into a career change, it's like, okay, I got this degree, and now what? Now who's going to hire me? Because a lot of times it's about experience. You can have the paper, but if you don't have experience, people will still sometimes not hire you. And so it's like, what do I do to make sure that I'm utilizing this piece of paper that I just spent 2 years, 4 years, whatever getting, and I want to make sure that I have an income that can match, so that if I have any loans or if I have any debt, I'm able to pay that plus my bills. And so so we have a lot of people joining. I see Beverly has a comment exposing young people to STEM and manufacturing is so important. Everybody can't be a football player, an entertainer, or social media influencer. Real world skills are in high demand. And you are absolutely right. They really are. And one of the things I was going to bring out too, Christina, so in the manufacturing field, so I know, there's great pay, but sometimes there's a pay discrimination, whether you're a woman or a male. Did you experience any of that when you went into the field?
So what I've seen so far with maintenance jobs like that is everybody comes in making the same pay.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was, when I went into training, it was, we all started out at this pay, and then like every class we took, we got a 50-cent raise. And so we all kind of stayed together. And that was the same when I was at Bridgestone. We all came in. It was some people had experience, so they might have started out a little bit higher, but everybody was like, after 1 year, you are making this much. And then after a year and a half, you're going to make this much. And then you all stay at that, same pay or go up together. And it was even the same out at Savannah Riverside with the E&I program, the E&I maintenance and mechanical maintenance. I think operations also, it's a pay scale. And like, you can go on the HR website and see the pay scale and see, if you came in at this rate, this is what your pay raises are going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
That helps in retention because, you look on, there's a lot of websites, you can see what people are making, and you get on, it's like, oh, how come she making that much and I'm making this much?
Right.
So that helps in retaining employees.
Right.
So that's great for those companies that are doing that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to share a few comments of folks that are watching. So hello, everybody that is watching. I see Miss Beverly Peltier, Pef Jickle, so I'm thinking that's Jeff Pickle, Regina Brown, Karen Gordon. And so Pef says semiconductor plant jobs are picking up, and there are lots of nice jobs in fully air-conditioned environments that are awesome to work at. As a welder, it's so awesome being inside. And Regina said Chrissy has been a great asset to the DWPF as an electrical technician and planner. Mm-hmm. Karen Gordon says great conversation. Beverly says yes, skill sets are important. So thank you guys for those comments. I really appreciate it. When I mentioned the pay difference, I was just listening to the news and the WNBA versus the NBA. And I'm just like, it's so egregious. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, I just can't fathom why there is such a gap. And then everybody wants to say, well, it's because not that many people watch women play basketball. Not that many. Listen, at the end of the day, somebody's making money. Mm-hmm. And I think it should be fair. If they're doing the job, and it just bothers me that we are willing to pay athletes this enormous amount of money and Jabal teachers that we need that educate those same players. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel. You're barely making ends meet, and it just doesn't make sense. You created that person, even if it wasn't for the sport piece, but just as a person, as an educated ball player, because they have to get their grades. And so we put so much into athletes and those things, but not our teachers, not our welders, not, the everyday people that if it wasn't for you guys, none of the rest would, we would be in trouble. Mm-hmm. So how do you think we can address those types of disparities? I mean, I know they're huge and seemingly insurmountable, but there's got to be a solution, some kind of way. What do we do to encourage? Because as a young woman looking at, okay, you have her counterpart that's going to make 10, 15 times more what she's going to make.
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't, I'll say this. I want to speak to one of the comments that was posted about STEM in real life every day, because I'm also working with the State Department of Education this year as we released our new standards. I know a lot of parents are used to the Common Core, which Georgia was on for a while. Yeah. We just released our own set of mathematical standards this year. We're implementing them across the state of Georgia. And so one of the things that our standards are now focusing on in the mathematics classroom is real life phenomena, meaning like what real life scenarios can we bring into mathematics to get kids really engaged and exploring math, because all of us asked the question when we were growing up, when am I ever going to use this in real life? Right. Why am I talking about y equals mx plus b?
Algebra.
Yes. I am not trying to be an ass
like my daughter.
We've asked that question so many times, and students say, I remember last year, my first year teaching 8th grade, because I started in 6th, and a student raised his hand and he said, Mr. Moss, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I ain't gonna ever see this again. Why am I in this class? Right? And so I was stunned for a minute because I was like, I wasn't prepared.
Right.
Usually I'm prepared with a response, but I wasn't prepared that day. So I had to go home and think about that thing. And so, now with us, it's storytelling. How do we tell a story that relates to mathematics, something that we do in our everyday life? Like one of my students really enjoys playing basketball. So I created a story about him playing basketball to talk about slope and the points on a coordinate grid and making it relevant. And that's another way for us to get students and people engaged with STEM.
Yeah.
And so secondly, I want to talk about the pay disparity. I was at my birthday dinner last night, and it was a group of us, and all of us are teachers. And out of the five teachers sitting at the table, 4 of us have a part-time job.
Wow.
To make ends meet.
Oh.
And so when I think about pay, it's a lot goes into it. Specifically as teachers, we talk about public service. We're public servants. So, we get a local supplement here in Richmond County. We get a local supplement from what local taxpayers pay in taxes. Then we also get the state supplement. And then there's the federal supplement, which is how it all comes together to average our salary.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is that we're paid off of 180 days. 190 days as a teacher, 190 days. And that 190 days is a 10-month contract, but that pay is over 12 months. So they break it up into 12 months.
Right.
And so when you think about the 21% that we have to automatically pay into the teacher retirement system of Georgia, as soon as you get paid, that 21% comes out.
Sheesh.
On top of your benefits and everything else that's mandated. I'm going to say this: average on the 1st and the 15th, I'm losing $800 a month just off of everything that's mandated for me to be taken out, right? And so that's another thing we talk about men in education. Like, what woman am I going to marry that's going to be looking at me on the 1st and the 15th like, hey, bro,
this all you got?
This all you got? Hair, nails. I want to go to Jamaica. We got some issues here, man. What you got going on?
This not adding up.
This ain't adding up. God forbid I'm pregnant. What's really gonna happen? So, we're thinking about males in education. I think that's why so many men want to go into the administration side of K-12 because they know once you get to administration, then the money is going to look different. Because you can support your family the way that you need to support it based on being in the classroom. And so I don't know what the key is or what the answer is, because I don't want to say raise taxes, because I know people going to be trying to look for me on Facebook like taxes. So I'm not going to say that. But I don't know if there's some corporate sponsor somewhere, some people that want to, partner with Richmond County Board of Education for me on particular to say, hey, we want to, make sure we, fix these pay discrepancies because, they're, teachers. Even in the 1800s, early 1900s, there was an article that was on Facebook, circulating on Facebook, and it was really a real article where all these the teachers had demands, like specifically women teachers, because that was who ruled the field. Like they had to be home before dark. They couldn't be seen with men. They would get paid $1.23 a week. Think about $1.23 a week in 1923.
Oh, wow.
And I think that level of our teachers are there to just be there. I think that's the mentality that a lot of people have, but the standard and the reputation of what they want us to be doesn't match what we're paid and what we're dealt with every day.
Absolutely.
And what we're dealing with every day, I should say. And so I think it's a great conversation to have about pay. Like I don't know what they're doing in Washington and Atlanta to talk about pay. but I want to be on the committee.
Right.
Look,
Right. Like,
and
can I please be on the committee? Yes.
can we
Pick
figure it
me.
out?
Yeah,
Pick me.
volunteer. I will volunteer for that committee. Right.
Right.
Okay, so Jabal, I'm gonna give you 2 comments of things that you said. One thing that I worry about is someone like you who are giving the students a voice and to think, to take you out of the classroom and put you in administration is a disservice to the students, although you probably deserve that. So that's something that I see happening a lot, because when I see principals move and teachers move into administration, I'm happy for them because I know it's more lucrative for them. But I look at the schools, I'm like, oh my God, why they move that principal?
Yeah.
So that's the hard part for me as a parent looking. And so I know that's going to be an issue, but we just got to keep, and that's why Augusta Tech's going to keep training good teachers like you. The second thing that I think is a solution maybe is to pair an NBA player and a team to sponsor the teachers. And so I've always said that the NBA player and the teachers need to switch salaries because y'all are doing the brains. I mean, it's amazing to me to watch children learn to read.
Yeah.
That is amazing to me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna work on the NBA because they make too much money
They
to
do.
not get back to school. Now I love. Now my favorite player is LeBron James, and he has opened up an academy. I love him for that. But we have some public school teachers like you.
Yeah.
Who need some support. So
Yeah. And I agree. You know, I think too, who bears the responsibility? You know, that's kind of everybody wants to know, well, whose responsibility is it? I think it's everyone's as a whole. So Beverly says, I think high schools should offer a personal finance class and mathematics pathways. And I agree, because when I was in high school in Indiana, we had a class called Life. And in that class, you had to learn how to create a budget, balance a checkbook, you know, learn how to.
That in my high school.
We had that, and I was like, when I came,
I'm trying. Same question.
and I came south, there was nothing. I said, so how do these kids learn how to have a bank account? How do they learn how to write it? We had to learn how to write checks. Like we had to learn how to care for children, and we had a daycare that partnered with us. They would drop their 3-year-olds off in the morning at our
real
class.
kids.
Real kids.
My high school did that too.
Wow. All we had was home ec, and we would make and sew.
We had home ec.
Yeah, but I was older.
We had home ec, but we also had Life. Life was a whole class, and you got credits for it. And yes, and so when I came here, and there was that gap, and I was like, so no wonder our kids come out not knowing anything, because if the parents not teaching them and they're not learning it in school, then where do they get, you know, information? How do they learn? Like, it's so crazy to me that there are children that don't know how to use an ATM debit card. They don't, you know, and that's technology. Technology is moving so fast, but we have to make sure that our children are staying engaged enough and learning so that they can keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, the basic typing. My children, they type papers, their research papers with 2 fingers. And then they want to know, Mommy, why you can type so fast? So I hate they took that out.
We had typing. Yep, we had typing. We had accounting.
They call it keyboarding. Yeah, they need to bring that back. They need to bring it back. Well, one thing I will say is one of my job, in my job description, I have to do financial literacy classes. And so I looked into that because we were doing how to buy a house, how to do this. So then we moved to credit because we see students who need financial aid. Financial aid is huge. So we're going to start to do that. But I noticed, I talked to the financial aid people. I said, we need to partner together, because when our students get their refunds, I want them to be able to put them in something and not go shopping.
Right.
Tax refund, everybody go eat. And, you know, so you need to figure out how to invest that and reduce stuff. So I am digging deep to just kind of change what I do instead of buying a house. But there are several banks in town that sponsor that will come up to the college for me, and we have classes. And so I love one of them. I'm not trying to promote a bank, but SRP does it for children on time to time. And I put my kids in those classes, and it totally helps them with that financial literacy stuff. So I love that I get to do that as well, but I'm going to pivot the way that I did from buying houses to just living. I mean, ground beef costs. People can't even cook. So we also are going to teach students how to grow their food with our horticulture department. And then we got culinary that can cook it. So we got a lot of things that
That's good. That's good.
Because going out it's not good anymore.
And it's expensive. And the food quality is low. Christina, you were going to say something?
She
I forgot.
I did forget. Oh, you were talking about, it was something you were saying. Oh my gosh.
STEM, soft skills.
Oh,
man.
2-finger typers. I was going to tell you a lot of the men I work with.
Yeah.
They'll come in my office and I'm typing and I'll turn around and look and I'm still typing. They're like, you don't have to show off. And I'm like, I'm just doing what I know how to do.
Right.
I could do it. Like my godson, he's 10, and if he's watching me work, he's like, Gigi, how do you know how to type so fast? I was like, listen, Gigi came from old school. We had to learn how to do this. This is something we had to do. This has been a wonderful conversation, career conversations, non-traditional careers, what that looks like, what it can look like. So, Christina, do you have daughters?
I have 2 daughters.
And what are you encouraging them to do?
Whatever their heart desires.
Yeah, thank you.
My oldest one, she's changed quite a few times. She went to UNG for a little bit up in Dahlonega, and then she's like, this isn't what I want to do. So she changed her program, and she was stressing herself out thinking she has to have everything figured out right now. And I'm like, look, child, there's grown adults who still don't know how to figure it out.
Right.
You know, I was like, why don't you just come home, try to figure out what you want to do instead of wasting time and money going to college. You don't even know what you want to do.
Yeah.
So she's back home. And then my other daughter, she's actually trying to get her GED. She's got 1 test left, so we're working on that. But she wants to do welding, and so we've been looking at different routes she can take to do that.
Good.
But I anytime someone tells me they want to do something non-traditional, I had a best friend in high school. She went for auto mechanic at Augusta Tech in Waynesboro.
Okay.
And I told you, my ex-sister-in-law, she went for welding. She works out at Plant Vogel now. But I try to put something like, don't limit yourself.
That's right.
You know, you can do anything you put your mind to. If you want to try something, go for it. Like, don't let yourself stop you just because you're a female or you're a male. You know, go do it if that's what you want to do.
Right. Jabal, what about you? Your nieces, nephews?
Well, you know, I have nieces and nephews. I also have an adopted 14-year-old that's with me as well. And he is into sports, but, you know, we have conversations at the house about, you know, what do you see yourself doing? And he was talking about an investment banker, and because, you know, there's not a lot of men in banking either. So, you know, I told him that's been the most of our center of our conversations every night, or when we're talking. It's like, you know, if you're going to go to school, we got to look at some great business programs that deals with investing in banking, you know, and even starting at a 2-year school, like, you know, sometimes we may want to start at a 2-year and then transfer to a 4-year, you know, just so that you can get your credits and get a good steady foundation of GPA. But I also tell him, I'm one of those people that have a plan for the 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 plan.
That's right.
So I always tell him, like, you know, what's your plan? Like, even now he's in 8th grade. So he's like, oh, I want to go to prom. Okay, so what's the plan after prom? If you don't go to prom, what you going to do the day of prom? So I think I'd be aggravating him a lot. He'd be like, man. So my conversations with them, you know, I have a niece who's a sophomore in high school who is wonderful at cosmetology, like braiding, doing locks, you know, bobs, sew-ins, all of that. You know, I tell her, don't lose focus. I said, God gave you a gift with your hands. Make sure you use them. You know, cosmetology is high demand. People, women gonna spend money on hair, nails, and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I look at it like, you know, go out there and make the money. You know, it's there to be made. So, at the same conversations that I have with my students about take the lid off, you know, and I always tell them, think as if there is no box, because the box really doesn't exist. But I've also recently, I don't know if you all watch Bel Air, the new Bel Air on Peacock.
I have.
And the coach said something so profound, and it stuck with me when he said it. And I've been finding myself saying it to my students and to my nieces and nephews more often. No grind, no grit, no greatness. You know,
I remember that comment.
So, you know, you have to, you know, grind and have grit for what you want, regardless of what it is that you think you do in this life, so that you can be great at it.
Okay.
And so that's just how I look at life every day. Even when I come in my building every day, I tell them, I say, another day, another opportunity, not another day, another dollar. So
Yeah.
what opportunity lies for us to make an impact every day?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That is, and what you said, Jabal, is something else we're thinking of doing. Once they graduate with their cosmetology degree or electrical, we are going to start doing entrepreneurship ties so they can do. A lot of them get out and can do hair, but can they own a salon?
And that's
so,
what Beverly just said. Beverly
Beverly used to work with me. She's retired from Augusta Tech, so that's what we're getting ready to do to get them in, because they can own a salon. They don't have to pay rent in a chair for so long. But if that's what they want to do, that's what they're going to do. And so before we end, Tonia, I just want to tell people Augusta Tech is here for you. We are ready. We are right now registering students for summer and fall. So summer starts May 13th. Fall starts August 19th. And so we are ready. You can come take a tour. So just want to do my little commercial because.
And how do they reach you, Benita?
B Jenkins at augustatech.edu. I am on the, we have so many campuses. We have to call them locations now. We're growing, and I love that. And our president has done a great job of helping us to continue to grow. As you know, our automotive department will move downtown next year. So we've got plenty of spaces, but we have over 100 programs. But augustatech.edu is our website. Deansbridge, Thompson, Burke County, where Christina came from, her hometown, and also Grovetown. But we also have the hospital on Wrightsboro Road, which is Piedmont. So yes, so just get on the website, look for me. I'm a special populations coordinator. Chief Happiness Officer is not on the website, it's on my door. So we are ready, and I actually work as an academic advisor during now registering students. So come on, you can take some classes, take core dual enrollment we have at all campuses. We are ready for everyone who wants to transform and change their lives.
And we are sponsored by who? This show, Career Conversations, is sponsored by
Tuesday Talks with Tonia. I want to thank Tonia and Augusta Partnership for Children, who have opened up their doors.
Yes.
And wait a minute, like I wrote my sponsors down. What else we got?
Augusta Tech.
Well, us, of course, Augusta Tech. So yeah, and I want to thank Tonia. I saw Tonia at a women's the women's health thing, and I said, Tonia, I want to do this. And so she said, sure. And so I want to thank Christina and Jabal for answering my calls and saying yes. I told you it was going to be good conversation.
Yes, I have enjoyed you all and learning a lot from Christina. You gave me a lot of insight today.
Yes, good.
You gave me a lot as well. It was interesting to hear what you had to say too.
Yeah, and so we'll be doing more. Tonia, we're gonna keep this growing because there are more non-traditional careers, and there are traditional careers, and we could even talk about. But so thanks to everyone who made this possible. I am so happy.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining
us
for
our
first episode of Career Conversations. We look forward to having more. You guys, make sure that you tell somebody about these programs at Augusta Tech. Make sure that you encourage somebody, even if it's something that is non-traditional. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.